If we look back over the past 30 years, there's one Asian musician whose influence and importance towers above those around him.
It's not really a case of how important he was, it's a case of how important he still is and still will be.
His impact has been phenomenal in this country and around the world.
What great spirit he has in his voice. He has something in his voice that I don't think I have heard any other artist ever have.
He was the most amazing thing to have ever come out of Pakistan.
Revered in both East and West, he's been compared to both Presley and Pavarotti. 2007 marked the 10th anniversary of the death of the Desi legend.
He has been deservedly called Shahenshah-e-Qawwali, the king of Qawwali, Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
Most of us in the UK will have first encountered Nusrat through his early performances on shows like Asian Magazine and Nae Zindagi Naya Jeevan. And at first it seemed like Nusrat belonged to the community alone.
And this was something which was, unquestionably brilliant, and it came from where I came from.
But Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was a unique performer, reaching beyond his Pakistani Islamic heritage to touch the whole Asian community and mainstream culture at large.
This phrase gets used about him, the Pakistani Elvis, and although that sounds like a kind of lazy or like glib journalistic cliche, there's actually quite a lot of truth in it, I think. I mean, in Elvis's sense, Elvis takes like the blues and gospel and he works it into this thing called rock and roll, which becomes a worldwide phenomenon. With Nusrat, I mean, there's obviously a religious thing. He takes the Qawwali, which has been part of Sufi traditions for like 700 years or something like that, and he makes it a modern, almost global pop phenomenon.
This was somebody who was using his religion in a really positive way. I always, when I try to describe Qawwali music to people, I'd say it was like the Muslim version of gospel music. It's devotional gospel music, but for Muslims. And rather than Islam being something to be terrified of, this was somebody who was creating beautiful music out of his love of religion, which I found, really, really gratifying.
Qawwali to me means actually dissent. Confrontation with evil. It's poetry, it's slam poetry, it's rap, it's hip-hop. It just has a traditional flavour to it.
I think that the appeal of it has actually been simply that it's very infectious rhythms. They're very easy to grasp rhythms. From a Western classical perspective, it's 4/4 grooves.
पावर रूह के साथ होता है, दिल के साथ होता है, नज़रों के साथ होता है। इसमें क्योंकि इसमें जब रिदम और लफ्ज़ों का जब मिलाप होता है।
Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was born in Faisalabad, Pakistan in 1948 into a long line of distinguished and respected Qawwals. However, something in the passion of Nusrat's voice and the sincerity of his performance meant that his career took Qawwali to new heights.
I think that Nusrat managed to smash, all the barriers down.
And since his death in 1997, if anything, his influence has increased.
Look, today Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan has been dead for 10 years. But even a 10-year-old today knows who he is. The power of his voice still lives on and is an amazing achievement.
Continuing his work and bringing Qawwali to the world is his nephew and former pupil Rahat Ali Khan.
I remember him and feel him with me, and I think he comes everywhere with me. He sees what I see and he watches with me.
Nusrat's work was essential in bringing Qawwali to new audiences, lending his voice to film scores such as Dead Man Walking and collaborating with artists like Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam and Peter Gabriel.
He really wasn't afraid to actually try working with other types of music. One story about him is that he used to, when he'd go to other countries on tour or whatever, he would actually watch TV commercials and watch a lot of television to try and understand the chord progressions and the melodies that were popular in the countries that he was visiting, and then he would actually incorporate those in the songs that he would sing.
Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was always working. I never saw him sleeping on the job. Even when he was sleeping, his toes would move almost rhythmically in tempo.
You know, he kind of was instrumental in making people think beyond, you know, what people were used to in this country in terms of the Asian scene. I think from that perspective, he was very influential in terms of changing the perspective of what British Asians were capable of.
Nusrat was also happy to see his work remixed by a variety of UK artists such as Bali Saggu, Aki Nawaz, Nitin Sawhney, and perhaps most famously, Massive Attack.
I think one of the most amazing remixes of Nusrat was actually created by Massive Attack. They did it with great integrity, great respect. They probably didn't understand, but understood the emotion of what he was saying.
But I like the idea that this was somebody who would be remixed by Massive Attack, and I like the fact that Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was up for it as well. I mean, he was somebody whose music, you know, he was happy, it seems to me anyway, for it to be transformed in, mixed and collaborated, and in a sense, that is a really good model of how to live as a community.
The work he did with Mast Mast with Michael Brook and Magic Touch, he did because he wanted to further Qawwali and popularize it to a younger audience at that time, to get a message of their own culture to them so that they would appreciate it more.
His legacy is to actually allow a lot of Asian artists to believe that they can transcend any boundary. I think from that perspective, he's incomparable.
हर फनकार के अंदर एक फनकार होता है, उसको वो अपने फन सुनाता है। मैं भी उस फन में अपने डूब कर जब अपने अंदर के फनकार को सुनाता हूँ, तो उसका असर जो होता है मेरे सामने।
The one thing that Nusrat had was his voice. I honestly think that those types of artists have a special link with God.